Okay, now let's talk about the Super Eagles. The Super Eagles. Two games coming up against Libya on the 11th and 15th of October in the AFCON 2025 qualifiers. Smith Layi, there's been so many comments by people across social media, traditional media about who should get called up, who shouldn't get called up. So let me throw it to you. Who are the players that you think? Let's take it this way. From the last squad,
Mhm.
who do you think should be dropped, and who would you replace them with from the last Super Eagles squad?
You know, based on the performance from the last international window, for me, if you can invite player and the player did not get any minute, not play any game, I think that means that you saw something in that training. If he's not injured, that the guy is not good enough. I don't see any point for you to actually bring the player again. And I'm going to actually mention Benjamin Tiamino for that matter. Tiamino just moved to Crawleytown too. I think he also needs to what to settle down in Crawleytown.
Yeah.
I don't think he should be called up. So if he's not called up and this guy is injured, and Bryce Saitama is injured, I think Kevin Akpoguma should replace him. That is my opinion. I think Kevin Akpoguma should actually want to replace him. And that player did not actually really. I think Amaz or Basoge will retain his spot because of the inclusion of the home base goalkeeper. Though it's not
It's not home base again.
any unknown base. So even looking at the league now, I can't even point to any Nigerian goalkeeper doing well in the league because the rep goalkeeper is from Benin Republic. So though it's Yoruba, but it's from Benin Republic. So I don't, but I think another player that Yana Shaw, I think this time around, maybe they should give him more time. I know the coach likes him. For example, now the coach built his team around Yana Shaw in the AFCON he coached Nigeria in 2021. So if Yana Shaw could come to camp and he didn't see any minutes, that means that there's something wrong somewhere. So for me, I think Yana Shaw should actually what? Should rest. I think that Yana Shaw should rest. I think that a player that can actually what to replace him might be not a popular opinion, but I just think that I think it's high time for us to see maybe we can. I don't know why. I will go for Josh Maja. You know, I will just go for as my white card. I will go for Josh Maja to actually what to replace him. I know that we have Aqua Adams. We have a lot of players actually what doing well in that regard. I just think that there's something in Josh Maja. I think that it can actually what offer something different up front for the national team. So and I know that about winning for me, he started a game in the Premier League against Fulham this last weekend. You know, I don't know why he was taken off halftime. In the halftime stats, he covered the most distance in the pitch, followed by Adama Traore. But for me, it depends on what everyone wants to do about him. For me, I just think that he can offer something similar to Victor Osimhen. But if the coach believes that it's not going to be part of his plan, so be it. Because I see other strikers, the hold up play and everything is not that like Victor. He's the only one close to Victor. That's the reason why I think that if you're inviting 25 players, you might likely include him in your team. Alassane Yusuf is another player I think they might probably need to give a rest and bring in Chrysanthus Uche. That is it. Chidera Ejuke matter is a bit tricky for me because I don't know who to add to that team to take away from that team. But I will add Chidera Ejuke without subtracting the player. That is it.
Okay, okay. I think I'll make a few different changes from what you decided.
Mm-hmm.
For one, I will say, and the goalkeepers, Okoye Nwabali, yes. I'll take off Amos Obasoge from the last squad.
Mm-hmm.
Let him settle down in Ethiopia. Let him do his thing. I
Mm-hmm.
will call up the best performing MPFL goalkeeper.
Mm-hmm.
Whoever they feel like is the best goalkeeper in the MPFL right now, they
Mm-hmm.
should call him up. Unfortunately, Uzoho has not made any appearance for Omonia, so you cannot really justify calling him up.
Mm-hmm.
So whoever the best goalkeeper is in the MPFL,
Mm-hmm.
I will call that goalkeeper up.
Mm-hmm.
Moving on to the defense. Um Tanimu was called up initially as a replacement for Osai Samuel. Now
Mm-hmm.
that Osai Samuel is back to fitness, I don't
Okay.
think Tanimu will be called up. So I think Osai Samuel will be there. If at all you are going to make any change in defense, I think the unfortunate sacrificial lamb will probably be Olisanda.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think did Olisanda play
I
in
think
the
it's
last two
injured.
games.
It's injured.
Is he injured? So
Yes.
if he is injured, I'll probably replace him with one of Gabriel Osho or Igor Ogbu. These are two
Who is injured?
players. Oh, it's true. Ogbu got injured. That's true. That's true.
Yeah.
So Gabriel Osho then. Osho hasn't. He was called up once in March. I think it was.
Robert
He did.
Akpoguma.
I wouldn't call up Agboguma right now. I
Mm-hmm.
will call up Gibelo Shaw, let him come into the team, see how we can adapt, see how we can relate with the players, and if possible, get some minutes in one of the games and see what he can potentially do.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, you're right. Igor Bu is injured, so he's out of it.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll probably call up Gibelo Shaw if Olisanda is injured as well.
Mm-hmm.
Going into the midfield, I don't think I would make any change in the midfield. Honestly, I would call up Alassane Yusuf. I've said it before. I'm not somebody that believes that because he has moved to the MLS, he shouldn't get called up. If there is a midfield option that we have that is balling at that high level, to deserve a spot in the team, I'll say yes, call that person to replace him. But we don't have that midfield option right now, unless you want us to call up Etebo or to call up Azubuike Okechukwu, because over this past month of September, in all honesty, they've been the two best performing midfielders alongside Ndidi and Onyeka. I mean, among the other options,
Mm-hmm.
Azubuike Okechukwu and Etebo, they've been doing well. Or unless you want to call up Ayo Bileye, which
Why will be?
I mean, Iwobi will for sure be called up. No, I'm talking about the players that are on the outside
Okay.
looking in.
Okay.
Unless they want to go and maybe call up an Ayo Bileye and say, "Oh, play as a DM option." Now, why you can also play center back, or they want to go blast from the past and call up Etebo or Azibuike Okechukwu.
Mm-hmm.
If not, then I will just leave Alassane Yusuf there.
Mm-hmm.
I love Crisanto Suche. I
Mm-hmm.
love Crisanto Suche, but I cannot justify calling him up in the midfield right now. I've said this. Yes, I know he's a natural midfielder, but he has been playing in attack for Getafe throughout this season. How are you now going to tell me that he is supposed to be in the Super Eagles as a midfielder? I just cannot understand it. Let's not forget that Getafe is the first professional club that he is playing for.
Mm-hmm.
Because the club he was playing for before Getafe was not professional, was a semi-pro team. So it can't be like, say, I'm playing as a striker, then I join a professional club. They start playing me as a center back. All of a sudden, you say, "Oh, you are calling me up to the national team as a striker." I just cannot connect and say, "Yes, I know he's doing well, but as a striker, he cannot get into the team." And as a midfielder, there is not enough evidence to say that he's better than the options that we have.
Mm-hmm.
When he plays more games for Getafe, when he does very well for Getafe from a midfield position, then you'll be able to say, yes, see what he has done. That's the reason why he should be called up as a midfielder in the national team.
Mm-hmm.
But as of today, I'm sorry, like there is no data, there is no video evidence, nothing. He has only played one match in midfield since he joined Getafe. And I don't count what he did before Getafe because it was not professional football. It was not professional football. It can't be like, say, because I did ball out for my local league now, for here in Ottawa. You now say you want to call me to national team. No. So for people that love him, I know people love him. People just want to see something different. Nigerians, we also have this ability that we get attracted to the shiny new toy and we
Mhm,
get so excited, you
mhm,
know. But I cannot see how anybody justifies it right now. And then in the attack, I'll probably make a few changes in the attack. I'll probably take out Kelechi Iheanacho and replace him with Chidera Ejuke, because I think Ejuke deserves another look in, and Iheanacho is not has not that is even Iheanacho is not off form because this has been his form for almost the whole past 2024. This has been the form for almost the whole 2024.
mhm,
So it is not about off form.
mhm,
It's just not balling. And then I know this one, Smith Layi might disagree. He's my guy, but Taiwo Awoniyi, I would say if they keep him in, I have no issues with it. But if they want to take him out, then I would bring in an Akko Adams. I don't think I would go for Josh Maja. I'll probably go for Akko Adams, because I like what Akko has been doing. I like how Akko has been balling. This is not the first season that he's doing well. He did well last season as well, even though he tailed off towards the end. Personally, I would still go for Taiwo Awoniyi in all honesty, because I think Awoniyi, it's not easy for him. He's playing in the English Premier League. He came back from an injury, and I think people have been harsh on Awoniyi with the way they judge his performances in the Super Eagles. Sometimes it makes me laugh the way Nigerians just give up on players so quickly. Somebody plays 8 matches total, 45 minutes per game, and then all of a sudden, and 2 goals, by the way, 45 minutes per game, 8 matches total, 2 goals. And people say, oh, he doesn't do well for us, blah, blah, blah. And I'm wondering, like, you want him to just be scoring every time he comes off the bench, or what exactly are you expecting? So I think people are very, very harsh on Taiwo Awoniyi. But at the same time, if they say, okay, he's off form and they choose to drop him, I will understand. And I would say, go for an Akko Adams, bring in a fresh face, fresh legs, see how he can come into the team, see if he can do well. And if he doesn't do well, then oh well, we have to go back to the ones that we already know. Um, Amo says, I don't agree with you. There have been many instances where coaches have invited players that have not yet played first team football. Again, I am a believer in two wrongs don't make a right. Because somebody has called up a player that did not deserve it before, does not mean that tomorrow we should call up another player that also does not deserve it. So it has happened in the past, does not mean that it should happen again. That's my own opinion. And Josh Maja is an option, of course, but my own personal preference would be for Akko Adams than Josh Maja. I think that as well as Josh Maja is doing, I have to rate the fact that Akko is doing it at a higher level than him, and I would use that to give Akko a leg in and say, okay, let's see what he can do. When Maja continues like this, or maybe when he gets promoted and he's doing it in the Premier League, then I think I will shout louder for him. But for right now, I will choose somebody in the French Ligue 1 than somebody in the EFL Championship. Because even though the Championship is a top league, is a tough league rather, there's still, a lot of games that are not as high quality. It's tough because of the intensity, the frequency of games, the number of games. Not necessarily that all the teams are very strong teams. So that's what I would say. Those are the changes that I would make. The rest of the players, if Osime is injured, so I think if Osime is injured, Awoni for sure is in the team.
must be there.
What do you say?
It must be there.
If he's injured, they should still call him.
If Osime is injured, I think Taiwo must be there.
Oh yes, yes. If Osime is injured, I think Taiwo Awoni will be there for sure.
Hmm.
But if Osime is not there, rather then if Osime is there, then maybe they take away Taiwo Awoni. Even though I feel like they will probably call him up.
Sorry.
But for me, the change that needs to happen, I think senior man needs to take. We're not saying he cannot come back into the team, but we're just saying for right now, senior
Mhm.
man should just take a breather, and then they can bring in Chidera Ejuke. Yeah, what do you say?
So what about you said that there's some low profile games in the championship and everything, and that. But what about all those games against Brest or Le Mans?
Ah,
Uh,
Brest, Brest,
I
Brest,
don't do
Brest.
well.
They just won 4-0 today. They are top of
Against us,
Champions League. Oh.
so about all those Le Mans. No, in all honesty, too, I think that. Josh Pasha did well in the French league. You know
He did okay in
that?
Bordeaux. Yeah.
In Bordeaux before they got relegated. He also did well in the League Two. So
Mm,
I like Aqua Adams. I don't know that he would be so sad. I would be thinking that for me, it's to not to take anything away from Aqua Adams. I just think that you know, Aqua Adams is similar to some of our strikers, but Josh Pasha is different.
mm.
That's it. It's just different.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
Let me see. Let me see. Somebody is saying that he disagrees with me that he has played. What did he say? He said he hasn't played solely as a striker for Getafe. He's featured in midfield in 3 games this season, including scoring in a preseason match against Atletico
Yes.
Madrid. So
Uh-huh.
what I would say is the preseason match doesn't matter. That doesn't matter. Even me, I can score in preseason. Preseason match doesn't matter. And I'd never said he has featured solely as a striker. He has played primarily as a striker.
Mm-hmm.
He has played 1 game that he was a midfielder. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, that was I was it the Sociedad game or the
Mm-hmm.
Real Betis game? I'm not sure which one it was.
Mm-hmm.
But
You know,
one,
at some
yeah,
point, against Alaves too, he also played in the midfield.
yeah, moving, dropping deeper and this thing during the game, even against Barcelona at some point when they're under pressure, he had to drop deeper. But I'm talking about actually putting in a shift in that position. He
Mm-hmm.
has been playing primarily as a striker. There
Mm-hmm.
is no, if you piece up all his clips in midfield, you have uh, 30 clips of him playing midfield and 90 clips of him playing as a striker. So for me, there's just not, again, I'm not saying he's not a good midfielder, I'm not saying he's not a good player. I'm saying that there is just not enough evidence. We cannot just get carried away by the shiny new thing. There is just not enough evidence to say, oh yes, he's better than, like, what makes him better than Aribo? For example, Aribo that people don't like. What makes, like, does anybody have evidence that he's actually better than Aribo? Other than just saying, oh, I believe he's good. Is that, like, is there actually any evidence? Because if somebody's on Aribo's side, the person can pull up multiple years of Aribo playing fantastically well in the Europa League, playing well
Mm-hmm.
in the Scottish League, doing well. So what makes him better? There's no evidence. So that's all I'm saying. When there is more to actually use to argue for him, I would be all in support of it. But as of right now, man, I love the guy. I like him. He's a good player. He's a good guy. But as of right now, I just don't think anybody can justify his selection. Again, I ask, all it takes to get into the Super Eagles is to have 8 good matches. Is that really all it takes? Like, as good as he is he playing at a world class level? If somebody's playing at a world class level, I can understand. You say, no, 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 what the guy is doing is just so good. You cannot ignore it, even though it's not that many matches. But it's not like he's playing world class football. He has
Mm-hmm.
played a total of 8 professional matches. All of a sudden, his national team. Is that how easy it is to get into the national team? Like, is that really how easy it is to get into the national team? It's the same way some people have been saying Victor Olatunji. And I always say, like, unfortunately, Nigerians, they just get excited by the shiny new thing. Olatunji has played 13 matches this season. He has scored 3 goals. But because he scored in Champions League and then he scored in the next game after that, oh, call him up, call him up, call him up. If any other player has that kind of statistic, will people be asking for them to get called up? But because he scored
Mm-hmm.
in Champions League, oh, why not call him up? So for me, I
Mm-hmm.
think people need to be more analytical and more, thoughtful about this thing. Somebody said, of course, it's better than Aribo, work rate. Somebody, okay, let's even say he works harder than Aribo. That's all. So you're better because you work harder. Is that how it works? Like, is that how dumbed down football analysis has become? That somebody's better because he works harder? Like, for me, I just think, like, we need to be more thoughtful about these things. Like,
Mm-hmm.
more evidence, let there be more games, and then we can say, okay, yes. So they say, oh, he's an utility player. We need utility players. Is like, let's be realistic. He is not an utility player for Nigeria. There is
Mm-hmm.
no instance that Nigeria will play him as a striker. Let's be realistic. You have Boniface, you have Osimhen, you have Awoni. You now say, oh, let's use Uchi as the striker. Like, let's be realistic. There is no scenario that he plays as a striker for Nigeria. If he comes for Nigeria, it would have to be midfield. And
Mm-hmm.
even now, he will probably just sit on the bench because of the Ndidis, the Onyedikas, the Onyekas. So again, I say, when there's more evidence, when you have more to show me, more statistics, more videos, then I will understand. But right now, if all you're talking about is assumption, I'm sorry, I disagree with anybody that says he should be in the team. But I believe that he will get into the team eventually. I'm not doubting that he will get into the team eventually.